Frank, like he's sitting beside me. Can we just start talking to him?
We're working on his camera.
Okay, we'll start talking to him. Frank, thanks so much for joining us. You're spending the second round in Vancouver.
I am.
And how you liking the city so far? You're getting the best of our weather. We're not getting rain till September again.
It's quite good.
That's right. Any other weather takes before we get to the Canucks?
No.
Okay, fantastic.
Just really far from home. That's all.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, the Canucks take game 1 against the Edmonton Oilers. How did that game go in terms of what you were expecting to see in that series starting and what actually happened in game 1?
Well, I don't think anyone had a 3-goal comeback and win in regulation on their bingo card. That's for sure. I looked at Wyatt next to me during the game, and I said, if they can find a way to tie this game, this place is going to explode. Yeah. And that's obviously what happened. The last 2 minutes and the drama was about as good as it gets, as the Oilers were pressing a bit. And that one Draisaitl look, not the one that went through Silovs' pads and came directly through the crease, but that one sort of goal line 1T that he put on net. He got way more on that than I thought that he would. And it kind of like stunned Silovs up high. The ending was fantastic. I guess I have really mixed views of game 1 for both teams, because I know that the Canucks liked where they were at. I thought they played fine. I don't know that they played great. And obviously the Oilers didn't. And so when I take a look back, yes, they won the game, and that's really all that matters in the end. But if we're talking process and where this is ultimately going to get to, you were trailing 4-1 for a big chunk of the game in which the Oilers were not good. And Silovs, you guys hit on Skinner and raised all the fair questions, but Silovs was not good to start. He was swimming last night. And so I guess I'm just looking at all of that and saying that's probably the worst game you're going to get from the Oilers in this series. Connor McDavid wasn't really a factor the first time he didn't have a shot in a playoff game in his career. How many more of those games are you going to get? And had you not won, what a missed opportunity that would have been. And I know that's not the hypothetical game that you get to play because you did win, but it was 4-1 and it was super quiet.
I definitely get where you're coming from. McDavid isn't going to be this quiet for the rest of the series, but I think to play devil's advocate, what I think a lot of people might be thinking is, well, it seemed like they were kind of unfortunate to be down 4-1 when you look at the bounce that went off Cole on the CC point shot, I believe it was, on the third goal, and even the fourth one, Hyman, sort of a harmless wrist shot off the rush, deflecting off Meyer's stick and fooling Silovs there. And all the players, Rick Tocchet, and Rick Tocchet has never been afraid to criticize the Canucks. He's always super honest and open. And even he sort of said, I thought we were playing pretty well, even though we were down 4-1. So what would you sort of respond to that idea that, well, maybe they didn't deserve to be down 4-1 in the first place? And then when you look at the final two periods, they limited the Oilers to just 8 shots.
So what's the best case scenario? Like, had you, like, everything that you just outlined, like, let's say the Oilers got lucky on a couple, like, they're probably still down 2-1.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you're down 2-1. McDavid was a non-factor for the most part, and the Oilers didn't play well, and you gifted them a power play goal 40 seconds into the game. And like, Silovs, like, they're just, I'm not taking the pessimistic view. I'm just saying I could, like, let's reverse this and talk about this from the Oilers standpoint now. They have a game in which they probably shouldn't have been up 4-1, to use your point. And yet someone hands you a 4-1 lead on a silver platter and you don't close it out. Yikes.
Yeah.
I was listening to any of that. You just continue this conversation. We're setting up lights and stuff.
No worries.
That's good hosting. That's exactly what someone should do when they're hosting a show.
I wanted to ask you, one of the other turning points in the game, it felt like, was when Leon Draisaitl left in the second period, appeared to get hurt. When he came back in the third period, didn't look nearly as dangerous, right? In the first period, he was obviously a factor on both of Edmonton's first 2 goals. Have you heard anything about his status, and from an Oilers perspective, or how worried would you be about Leon's injury there?
So the official, it's interesting because yesterday after the game, Chris Knobloch said cramping and equipment issue, which like I don't know what the equipment issue is.
Oh, my chest protector.
Or yeah, my pants.
Oh, jeez. Gotta get me out of there.
Hate to break it to you, Leon. I walk around daily with tight pants. Sorry, that was too far. But when it comes to his status, they said today day to day, and not a shock. I think I would be surprised if Draisaitl doesn't play in game 2. Like if it is a lower back issue, which I think you also saw Zadorov take a run at him later in the game, if I'm remembering that correctly, and give him a shot in the back. I think to me, Rick Tocchet, I asked him this after the game last night. I said, when do you think the tide started to turn? And he said when the Lindholm goal went in late in the second period. I actually think that the true turning point in the game was when Draisaitl went out with 8 minutes to go in the second. That's when it started to shift for me. That's when the table started to turn. The Oilers were a dysfunctional mess. Their lines were all over the place. They didn't handle things well on their bench, and they didn't play well. That's when the Canucks started dominating play, and that's kind of when that 22-minute stretch without a shot on goal started.
Do you think the Oilers have enough forward depth to succeed in this series if Draisaitl ends up being hampered less than 100% effectiveness?
Do I think they have? How did you frame the question?
Do you think they have enough forward depth to still be successful, win this series?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's their significant advantage over the Canucks. I think the Canucks, I think they are built to and could be more than this, but they have played like a 1.5 line team these playoffs.
They have, and I saw you say that on Oilers Nation every day too. And we were talking about a lot of ifs yesterday, like in our keys to the Canucks actually winning this series. That a lot had to go right for them. I think a lot of it did go right last night. Like one of them was win the goaltending battle.
Silovs, so think about what you're saying.
Yeah.
So Silovs wasn't good, and you win the goaltending battle.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would call that mostly a draw.
You would?
Dude, did you like the goals that Silovs let in?
We just went over it in the first segment. There's one bad one on him.
Okay.
Right? Like,
I guess.
Skinner, I'm counting 2 or 3 that are like, okay, Stuart Skinner has to make a save there.
I'll be honest. I think both goalies.
I don't think either one is good. Like that's what I'm saying. I didn't like any parts of Silov's body language.
Absolutely,
I didn't like the way that he was sliding all over the crease. I didn't like that. Frankly, that Rick Tocchet didn't go with Casey DeSmith to start the third period because you're looking for a jolt down for 2, and you're probably looking for DeSmith to knock the rust off after not playing for a long time. If you have to turn to him for game 2,
which they don't. They aren't going to DeSmith. They shouldn't. They should stick with Silovs.
Well, you said they aren't. No, sorry, you said they shouldn't, but that doesn't mean they aren't.
I would be stunned if they go to DeSmith for game 2.
Do you think Silovs? Don't you think he looked nervous last night?
Yeah, I thought he had a game like that in Nashville too, though.
I don't. I never saw that at all against Nashville.
I don't think he had a game like that against Nashville.
He hasn't had a game like that these playoffs.
But wouldn't you back your guy, considering how excellent he was against Nashville, especially because it's not like you got Thatcher Demko waiting in the wings and he's your plan B. It's Casey DeSmith, another guy who can be sort of up and down and hasn't had his starts in a while now.
I personally would be considering it now. I think he's got a dilemma on his hands, Rick Tocchet.
I think Silovs is going to have a really strong game too. I think it's going to be same thing we saw in Nashville. He's going to come out. He's going to have a really, really strong game too. So I think. Here's the one thing I'm curious about.
But I want to answer Harm's question just a little bit more detail. Like, I know that on the score sheet he's there. Like, he's actually like playing minutes. But has Ilya Mikheyev played in these playoffs?
This is the best he's looked all year. Like, he was so bad in the regular season. Like, he led them in Corsi last night. That's the best
only
we've seen
time-
William McKayev play.
That is the worst. That is the worst compliment I've ever had. I mean, like, I don't even know that he's okay. So Höglander, Sam Lafferty.
Yeah.
Oh, so Dakota Joshua,
Mr. Game 1.
I called him Mr.
I
Game 1
loved
last
it.
night. So you can score Game 1. He was great in Game 1 last round, but he disappeared the rest of the series. Go down the rest of the lineup. Where are you getting? So you're asking me, let's just operate under the hypothetical that Draisaitl's out, which, by the way, for my money, he was the best player on the ice on either team in the first half of last night's game.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a good take. Yep.
So, gee, thanks. So all of mine have been garbage today except for that one. So that's
You
good.
said it. The chat said it. No, I'm kidding.
I never see the chat, but feel free to tweet me. If that's the hypothetical, like I think the Oilers have a clear advantage, and that's with Evander Kane having a horrible game last night.
Yeah, he was
very bad.
rough.
That's with Corey Perry being mostly unnoticeable. Like, and Connor McDavid, like I think they just have more. I do. I don't even know that that's opinion. It feels more like fact.
You're absolutely right. The thing that I think the Oilers didn't address in their post-game media, and the thing that I think a lot of the takes I'm seeing right now are just that, well, the Oilers are better than this. The Oilers are going to do better. And while that's absolutely true, none of the conversation is talking about, well, the conversation we were having was, but a lot of the conversations I've been hearing aren't, this is what the Canucks did well. This is why the Oilers struggled to create offense. And we spent the first half hour breaking all that down. It's not just as simple as, well, Connor McDavid's going to flip a switch. It's going to be all better. Connor McDavid needs his teammates to be a lot better than they were last night. And I'm not saying he's not the best player in the world.
But you're making my point for me. The Oilers were not very good last night and still up 4-1, and probably within all rights and likelihood should have won the game. So what you're hinging on and what you're saying is the Oilers you acknowledge that they're probably going to be better, and that might be their worst game of the series. Might, and it's not a fact, but might. And they were still up 4-1, and the Canucks needed a massive, borderline miraculous comeback to do it.
Yeah, but those bounces, right? That's what you're hoping if you're the Canucks. All the bounces went the Oilers' way last night, and they lost at the end of the day.
I mean, I guess McDavid and other Oilers players would argue that the Canucks they didn't feel like the goals that the Canucks scored on the comeback were not as a result of structural breakdowns, but also bounces. JT Miller said himself, I've practiced that shot a million times in my life, and I don't know that I've ever scored on one of them, that redirect tip.
And Skinner has to have that. That was what we were talking about earlier.
But does that go out of 100 times? How many does that go in? 3?
1 last night.
The most egregious goal to me was the Skinner one, or
Lindholm.
No, actually, it's Garland.
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Garland.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I thought was pretty good last night.
But again, is that a lucky bounce, or is that your goalie just being bad? Because I would argue
that
it's the latter.
He should have been more patient. Yeah, it was bad goaltending.
So that's what I'm saying. If you're Connor McDavid, you don't come out in the media and say, lucky bounces.
But to be fair, he also acknowledged that they had a bounce too.
Yeah, he basically was saying, like, it was a weird game for us. It was a weird game for them.
So
we got out to a lead that we probably shouldn't have, and we gave up goals that we probably shouldn't have.
So if we're operating under this guise that, okay, well, the Canucks had a 4-1 lead and Edmonton was awful, like, if you take away these bounces or whatever we're even talking about at this point, the Canucks were the better team structurally throughout that entire game. Like, they were the better team last night.
Okay.
Right?
Maybe. I think it's close. Like, I don't think it's like I don't think it's like 70-30 or 60-40. Yeah. Like, I don't think it's like that at all.
Sure. So that's what I'm saying, is just that now you're in this position where you assume both teams are going to be better than they were last night. Right? Or
I'm not operating under that assumption.
Maybe the Oilers catch up.
I don't know
to
how
the
much
Canucks.
Better are the Canucks going to be.
That's fair, but
because I think you're also proposing that they started at a level ground and these two teams are actually equal, and I don't see it that way.
Fair enough.
Right, because that's what we're basically saying. You're saying if these two teams are as good as each other, then you would think that they'd both get better. And what I'm saying is I think the Oilers are here and the Canucks are here, and the Oilers' best is a level that the Canucks haven't gotten to yet. That's how I see this series.
Yeah, that's fair. How concerned would you be though about, for example, we're discussing the forward group, and I fully agree with you. Edmonton's forward group is better than Vancouver's. Where I start to get worried if I'm Edmonton is looking at the blue line depth beyond that first pair of Ekholm and Bouchard. Nurse CC pair got lit up for 4 even strength goals, and it's sort of been a pattern for them. They weren't very good in the LA series, and in the Vegas series last year, they were sort of problematic as well. When you look at Edmonton's blue line, what would your concern level be at? Because I expect a lot of areas like McDavid's going to be better. I expect some of their other forwards to step up, but I still think they're a little bit vulnerable in the back end. And that's where it seems like they give a Canucks team that doesn't create offense easily an opportunity to get into games. Like that's the first time the Canucks have scored 5 goals in a game since early March when they beat the Winnipeg Jets 5-0 on home ice. And that feels like forever ago. So again, looking at that blue line, do you think that's something that is giving the Canucks an opportunity to get into the series?
Well, I think the way you see the Nurse and CC pair function for Edmonton is kind of the crux of their issues as a team. They repeatedly shoot themselves in the foot. And, I wrote this today. It's going to go one of two ways. It's either the Oilers are going to actually learn a lesson and they're going to limit that, and they're going to have a game potentially later in the series where they have a lead and they don't gag on themselves, or it's just going to be this same thing at time after time. And that's what's doomed their playoffs of old. And I think rightly, wrongly, fairly, unfairly, the Nurse CC pairing has been right kind of at the center of the, it's okay to give up singles and doubles, but when you're giving up home runs, like that's how you lose playoff series. And so the point that I made today was like, they may survive. You can have a game like that. If you're the Oilers, the reason you're confident is like, you're like, well, we haven't had a game like that yet these playoffs. You can have a game like that where you cough up and blow an opportunity like that. It can happen once in a playoff run. They might be able to overcome it against the Canucks. But I can tell you for damn sure, you're not going to be doing that against the Colorado Avalanche or Dallas Stars and hoping that you're going to win a Stanley Cup.
You know, one takeaway I had just watching all these playoffs, especially these ones, is whichever team gets through is going to have a real tough challenge on their hands with whoever they face.
Unless those two teams can beat the heck out of each other.
That's a great point.
And that very well may happen and make 7.
Yeah.
And to finish off Harm's question about their D pair, I feel pretty good about the idea. If you're an Edmonton fan, I'd feel pretty good about the idea of Kulak and Desharnais as your third pair. Like, I think those guys have been steady. I think Kulak's actually been fine. And there's a healthy amount of Ian Cole-ish production from Desharnais. Like, he's not going to give you a ton of offense. He's not going to be flashy, but he just kind of gets the job done. And I think there's some of that with his size that's valuable to Edmonton on their back end.
Yeah, Desharnais was super interesting because he's come a long way from past playoffs. I think he's improved a lot in the regular season. But I wondered at one point if he was like, if he's being slowed down by an injury or something, because
he's just generally slow.
Like, I know he's slow, but he looked extra slow last night. Not that he got exposed for it, but I was a little bit surprised that, like, there were moments in the game where he just didn't move and would straight try and whack a guy. And
dude, when you have a 7'8" reach, like, you can kind of just whack away.
I know what you mean, but
sorry for that, Quads.
Get Troy Stetcher in there. That's my take. I've been
Who
told
was hammering the Noah Juleson conversation yesterday?
Was
it you or
no? I don't think Noah Juleson should get in the lineup. Like, Ian Cole was bad, and I said this in the opening segment. Ian Cole, like, again, those first 3 goals were on Ian Cole. And
oddly enough, this is going to sound an absolute, this is not a take. This is just an observation. Like, he was way more assertive at the offensive blue line than he was at any point in the Nashville series. Like, he had the puck on his stick a bunch, which probably is a scary thought, but he actually was like making some things happen at the other end of the ice.
He was better in the third too. Like that's the thing.
It was kind of like Ian Cole giveth and Ian Cole taketh. I mean, there's certainly a part of that. And I was like, damn, if you can kind of gloss over the idea that, 3 ended up in the back of your net as, a result of almost directly or indirectly off of his stick. I kind of liked it. It's like if you can get past that, it's like,
if you want me at my Ian Cole at the offensive blue line, you need me at my here's the puck. Go ahead. Have a shot. Why don't you? Have a power play.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess If you can get past the fact that I'm 290 pounds, I might be a decent enough looking guy.
He's got a good beard, little Yukon Cornelius stuff going on there. I long for that.
He's a gamer, man. I love Ian Cole. I really do.
Yeah. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.